Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Right Side Up. My name is Mike Taglavia. Again, I have a co-host today. Thankfully, Allison Despathy has decided to join me again. Welcome, Allison.
Thank you so much. Hello, good morning.
So we've got a ton of stuff to talk about. Again, never a dull moment when the legislature is in session, right?
So intense, especially this time of the session.
It's
oh my goodness.
I think it's gaining in intensity. We've got tax stuff going on. Mm-hmm. We've got this 181 stuff that's finally coming to a head because of rulemaking and all kinds of map making and everything else that needs to be ironed out, and it's rearing its ugly head, and so many Vermonters are finding out that like we were talking about before we started airing here. For those of you out there in the listening audience who think the idea of just being left alone means keeping your head down and not saying anything, what we're seeing coming out of 181 right now is part of the problem.
People are engaging, and it's exactly what we need to have happen if we want to move it to the right place.
Yes.
Right.
So, and I'm finding here that something is matter with my video, but I'm going to keep going on because we got at least audio. I'm not sure what's going on.
Okay, good.
So,
same thing happened with the Clean Heat Standard. People woke up, they came out, they engaged, and we were able to, at least for now, keep that at bay. And we're in the same pattern again here.
Yeah, the best way to be left alone is to become part of the debate.
Yes.
Have your voice heard. So we've had this morning, because this is Tuesday morning airing, first time airing.
Yep.
So today at noon, there is a rally against Act 181 and basically the damage that a lot of people are finding that 181 does to rural Vermonters with respect to mapping, Act 250, permitting, stuff like that.
Yes.
Road rule.
Even our towns and municipalities, which isn't getting talked about as much, but on every level,
right.
It's an attack on Vermonters.
Yeah, and it was billed, when people call things that are going on in the legislature, they call them reform. Mm-hmm. Start doing your research.
Yeah, look close.
Understand, look under the hood, look at the fine print.
Right.
Because somebody's reform is another person's disaster.
Right. And then look for the spin and look at how it's going to be spun and try to, how they try to sell it to you a lot of times, unfortunately.
Right.
And there's so much wrong with this bill, as I think is slowly coming through. People are looking through, they're seeing the cracks in it. And that's where we're really hoping that a lot of people are going to come out today to the State House, 12 o'clock, come be a part of it. We got to let our voice be heard. And and people are listening. The legislators are listening. I think they realize, wait, what did we do here? And those who have voted, I think they're like, wait, what did I vote for? Did I even understand what I was doing?
Well, yes, there are some who are saying that, but okay, you made a mistake. If you believe that, then to fix the mistake, we need to repeal it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. This is not one of those things. It's too disastrous. Mm-hmm. Honestly,
it's a poor design.
It's poor design.
Right.
It doesn't. it completely ignores that the history, the heritage of Vermont, the beginnings of Vermont are rural Vermont.
Right.
And what this does is
Crushes.
it's a stranglehold
It
on
is.
rural Vermont.
Right.
So it's a complete reversal of the entire history of Vermont.
Right.
You know, I have nothing against the suburban areas and the city areas, the high density municipalities. If you want to live there, more power to you. But there are many, many rural Vermonters who like exactly where they are, and they really do not want to be told how to live their lives, what to do on their land.
Right. And this
rural
cannot
Vermonters-
be fixed. Like, we
No,
know that this cannot be fixed.
Yeah, rural Vermonters like the idea of rugged individualism. They like the idea of self-determination
And independence.
and independence.
Yes. And that's where over in the Northeast Kingdom, because
And
that's
this
where
is-
I
yeah,
am, the
yeah.
voices are loud and engaged
Yeah.
and involved.
Well, this is the line that apparently has been crossed, that people say no, enough,
Right.
enough. And you know, I'm glad that this has come out. There's now, we have S325 in the Senate.
Yep.
And nobody knows right now what language is actually going to be in it, because it hasn't passed off the floor of the Senate. It's still in committee. I believe it's still in one of the muddy committees.
I think it went to finance.
Senate Finance. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
So after that, it will go to the floor for floor debate and hopefully passage, and then it will come to the House Environment Committee.
To your committee. Right. Right.
Yes.
So you guys are going to have
To
to help
be- yeah.
shepherd that to at least get this date extension so we can take some action. And
Yes.
honestly, we just have to get the right people in there for next session so we can turn the ship around. Because this is the pattern. It was the
Yeah.
pattern with the Clean Heat Standard. It's now Act 181, and there's a lot more to come. I mean, Renewable Energy Standard, I mean, just
Yeah.
wait. Exactly.
Well, yeah, there are bills up on the calendar this week that will serve to equally rile people up.
Yes. And why does it have to be that way,
It
Mike?
doesn't. It shouldn't be that
It
way.
shouldn't
It
be
really
that
shouldn't
way.
be that way.
No, I think
So-
many feel terrorized and under attack once you start to look at it. But
Yeah.
we have to look at it.
Yeah, and
do.
you know, and part of it, a lot of people feel overwhelmed. That's why they check out.
Yeah.
You know, and
And I
but-
think the question also comes down to service. Who is being served? And this is where it's obviously, as elected officials, and you know this well because I
Yeah.
see it, and it's why I have tremendous respect and gratitude for you and the work you do in there with others. But it's serving Vermont and Vermonters. And with Act
Yeah.
181, who was being served? It was to serve developers, to get rid of the Act 250 exemptions, to try to help building, which that wasn't even going to work. I mean, tier 1A and 1B, there's so much misinformation, and it's going to put so much of a burden on municipalities. And
well,
so,
yeah, and you know, in Act 181, it's kind of interesting because, like you brought up with the higher density municipalities where tier 1A supposedly could help, you want to do building.
right.
Okay. Part of the building is the lumber industry.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
if we had a thriving wood products industry,
Right.
we would have inexpensive lumber
Mm-hmm.
because it didn't have to go far from the day it was cut down in the forest to the time it was milled and then shipped off to a construction site
Right.
to be made into a Vermont home.
Right. And this is the slow chipping away that we have
Yes.
seen. Exactly.
Yes. So we
It's
have
why we've
181,
landed
yeah,
here.
this so-called reform to help with housing, and yet if you look deeper into it, there was no changes to any of the green books, any of the
Right.
statutes, to find ways to make our wood products industry in this state more viable.
Yes. And support the
Yeah,
loggers and the
exactly,
foresters and-
exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. The
If we want,
sawmills.
we want jobs. How about jobs across the spectrum?
Right. And if it was really housing we were trying to deal with, there's a much better way to approach that by going through and making sure we don't have duplicative permitting and just get Act
Yes.
250 tightened up the way it needs to be and working
Yes.
the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah,
But
and
it
I
has
know
been chipped
yeah.
away.
In some departments, I know they are working on that. I know
Yes.
they are working on that.
Because this is not going to do it. Act 181 isn't a solution. Just across the board, it's not any sort of solution.
Yeah.
And that's what's so frustrating when we see, the majority leader, Senator Rahm Hinsdale,
Yeah.
and the article that she put out there. I mean, how
Yes.
frustrating
Yes.
is that? And I think what we're seeing more of is there is a level of they're playing defense, and honestly, they should be. It's devastating that this passed, and now
Yeah.
they're trying to explain.
Well, yeah, I saw her article, her commentary on Vermont Daily Chronicle on Sunday.
Yep.
I don't know when it came out. I think it came out Sunday in the afternoon. I'm not 100% sure about that. And I don't have it up with me, but I read it and I just was, honestly, I was disappointed.
Yes.
Because it sounds more of the same. It
Yeah.
sounds like, I used this during the campaign, legispeak.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a good one.
It doesn't, there was nothing for me in it that said, we heard rural Vermont and we are going to make sure that rural Vermont not just is heard, but we're going to fix it so the economic viability of rural Vermont towns and businesses is going to be ensured. There was nothing of that in their commentary. Nothing.
No, there was not. There was a
Really?
lot of excuses and there was a
Yes.
lot of misinformation.
Yes.
And if you don't mind, if
No,
we have
go
time
ahead.
right now, I just
Go ahead.
pulled up a few things in particular.
Yeah, and if we don't
again,
have time, we can do it
in the next
in the next
session here.
segment. Yes, absolutely. We can carry this over.
Yeah,
So-
and that's where it's. I know there's a lot of issues, and everyone's trying to solve them.
Right.
But this, as we said, does not solve anything. And so one of the things Majority Leader Senator Rahm Hinsdale said was, "We all want our children and grandchildren to be able to afford to live here." Yes, 100%. We absolutely can agree on that. But then she goes down to say, "Lately, though, I've heard from many Vermonters who feel like the system isn't working for them, and worse, that the system is working against them." And my question, I think my concern, and that many hold, is they have created the system that is working against us. I
Right,
mean, that's
right.
my first response to this.
Yes.
In looking at wanting to make living expenses and basic necessities more expensive. So
Yes.
clean heat standard to raise the cost of heat, cap and invest programs that they continually look at to raise the cost of transportation fuel and gas and diesel. And then you've got the renewable energy standard, raising the cost of electricity. So
Yes.
they literally have, and I don't mean they in a bad way, but we are talking Democratic supermajority. All of this was
Yes.
put in place. And this is the system that they've created that is clearly making it more difficult and will continue to make it more difficult for us to afford to live here.
And to remind our listeners, without Act 181 bubbling to the surface and the discontent with the language that's coming out and people in rural Vermont realizing how damaging it is, without that, we never would have had that kind of a commentary
Right.
from Senator Rahm
No, they would
Hinsdale.
just keep doing what
That's correct.
they want to be doing in there.
So that's the part that's troubling to me.
Mm-hmm.
We got this back in 2023 and 2024. I say 23 and 24 because we had Act 59
Yep.
and then we had Act 181. These are
Yes.
all, I've heard them called a lot of things. One of them is land grabs. And that's what it looks and sounds like.
Yes.
We had the discussion and the committee debate, and pretty much we tipped the scales on the Act 59 versus H70 thing. We did.
Right.
You don't believe me? Go back and look at that video from February 27th.
Yes. There's more awareness.
Go back and look at it.
Yes.
But we also now we have Act 181 where we have these additional restrictions. It wasn't reform; it was additional restrictions on certain sectors of the state, which is at least 40% of the state.
Right.
So, yeah,
Right.
Like you said, and I've been saying this to a lot of people. We say on one hand, we're worried about jobs. We're worried about the economy of the state. We're worried about bringing in young families. And then on the other side, we have all these regulations in the green books, all these statutes that say, oh, we're sorry.
Right.
You can't come.
Right.
It's too unaffordable for you. So you're not you can't come.
And now even looking what's happening around like building energy codes, and they're going to try to tighten that
Yeah,
up. I mean,
this doesn't help.
No, 10 to 20,000 more to build a house. I
we
mean,
had
all of these are barriers.
Yes, we had the governor's EO 0625, I think is what it is.
Yep.
06-25, where the governor came out and he listed a whole bunch of things that he wanted, including a reduction in the wetlands, class 2 wetlands buffer from
Yeah.
50 to 25 feet.
And highly controversial, definitely. But
And-
these are the things that A&R needs to be directed to look at
Yes.
more.
And
Right.
but the thing was, it was all aimed at, well, and my committee, it was all aimed at that. There was no, well, bring in somebody from the administration, give us 3 examples of what you're talking about somewhere.
Right,
I know of one in Barry, but it never came up. It never came up. Nobody ever asked about it.
right.
Nobody ever asked about it.
Well, this is
So-
also the thing that I wanted, one other thing from her that I think is so important. There's so much what she got wrong here. There was one other thing in hers that I just want to read. When we passed the Home Act and Act 181, many of us were trying to return to Act 250's original principle, compact village centers surrounded by working lands. This was absolutely not Act 250's original principle. So for her to put that in there is it's just such a distortion of what Act 250 was intended to do.
Well, this is why, I keep saying the people who want to check out because they're so sick and tired of hearing this, they don't believe that they're heard.
Right.
Your assessment of that statement, I'm sure there are a number of people who made that same assessment. If you made that same assessment, ladies and gentlemen, and you're in the listening area and you're in Vermont, we need you in this discussion.
Yes.
You understand what's going on. Don't check out. Check
Right.
in.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
please show
so,
up tomorrow at the
yes.
State House or today.
Or today at
Today
noon.
at the State House at
So,
noon.
yeah, and we've run way over, so we're going to take a break, pay some bills. You're listening to Right Side Up. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Right Side Up. My name is Mike Taglavia. My guest today is Alan Despathy. Allison, we were talking about 181 and the total disaster that it has turned out to be. We were talking about the op-ed that Senator Rom Hinsdale put out. I think she probably put out in more than one outlet, but I saw it on Vermont Daily Chronicle. We were talking off air. You mentioned some aspects that I think were also rebutted and brought up in Neil Ryan's article that came out afterward.
Yep.
So maybe you can go into some of those
Yeah, so he
questions.
pretty immediately, after seeing her op-ed hit the papers, immediately had a response to her. And I think a lot of it was really just calling out the truth and the reality around we just don't need
Yeah.
an extension. We need the repeal. This has no
Yeah.
solution. But then he also pointed out what many people have held concerns about with her in the position she's in, just about the fact that her family is in housing development and property management.
Yeah.
And so there are real concerns, and there was an ethics complaint that was filed against her, and that related back to bills that were creating a path for housing, and the question is at the expense of towns and people,
Right.
and what was being put in place. And so that did hit the Ethics Commission, and there were many people who very vocally said that she should have recused herself because of potential conflict of interest. The Ethics Committee said that there wasn't anything that they saw. And so
Okay.
obviously you have to keep in mind, you're judging your peers. It's legislators judging legislators. So, there's questions around, is there bias there? But I think bottom line is Senator Rom Hinsdale for quite some time has been trying to open up more of a path for development. And I don't think any of us are opposed to that. We want good economic development and we want housing 100%, but we also want to make sure that neighbors and communities have a voice in it.
Yeah.
And that's where one of
Yeah.
the big things that's been of concern recently when you listen to her in committees is appeals. And she's very regularly trying to talk about getting rid of the appeals process. And that, we have to recognize what that is. That's due process.
Yeah.
Due process.
No,
People
that should be a concern for everybody. The
Yes.
appeals process exists for very good reason.
Yes.
And to eliminate the appeals process, in certain municipalities, that that could be the difference between a rural community or a rural municipality staying rural and becoming suburban.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
It could mean the difference between a rural farm landscape and numerous subdivisions. And please don't get me wrong. If a subdivision anywhere is the right fit,
Yes.
then by all means, let's have it.
And if it's done the right way,
And
exactly
if it's done the
right.
right way.
Right.
But to take away or diminish the appeals process, I think is a massive step in the wrong direction.
Yes, and we just have to keep in mind again that this is due process, and sometimes there's real legitimate concern when you're looking at what are the impacts to a town and to the neighbors going to
Yeah,
be.
yeah.
And that's the piece where there's been a lot of red flags in her work on this, and I think that all agree we want to figure out housing, and especially also rural housing and homesteads. We want to make sure that's available to people who live here, and
Right.
some of our children who are getting older and want to have a home to live in. So we just have to be really honest and transparent about
Yeah, and
where people are coming in from on this topic, because there's a lot of money to be made. We know
yeah,
that.
there is.
And there's always a fight over land, and there's always a fight over money. We know this, long time story.
Yeah.
And we just want to make sure that anything that's being put into statute and being put into law, being put in place, is going to serve Vermont and Vermonters.
Yeah.
And that's where the questions for her work have bubbled up, I will say.
Right. And, if we want economic development, let's talk about economic development as far as the farming community, too. Okay.
Yes.
Farmers. Let's talk about restoration of farms to the landscape as well. And we don't hear about that. We
Right.
don't talk about that. One of the concerns I have for Act 181, and speaking with my experience only, I have proof that on my land there was a farm probably 100 or more years ago. And I can say that just based on the size of the trees that are growing in and around the one cellar hole that I have.
Yep.
Well, why should we be putting hurdles in place? And Act 181, by all estimation, would be hurdles to restoring that farm
Right.
back to what it was.
Right.
If we want farms to stay active and viable in this state, then that needs to be a possibility for numerous properties all over rural Vermont. Not just in my district, not just in my town, all over in your area, Northeast Kingdom, everywhere.
Right.
We have, Vermont is known worldwide for its pastoral views. We have all the leaf peepers, and we have people taking pictures, driving down private roads,
It's beautiful.
clogging up people's driveways, taking
Right.
pictures. Well, when we have advantages given to industrial solar, but not farmers,
I know.
there's a problem
I
here.
know. And that's
there's
a
a big
whole
problem.
big can of worms right there. Don't
Right.
get me started on that one, Mike.
Well, I'm just, the point I'm trying to make is we need to back out and look at the big picture. Act 181 is just one piece of a very large puzzle.
Yes.
We need to look at all the other statutes over the past, 2 to 8 years
Yep.
that have actually helped to hinder economic development and prosperity instead of help it.
Right.
We need to be thinking about this every time we talk about things in the legislature. And so many times we don't. Look at, it's come up numerous times, local options tax. I don't know
Yes.
if you know much about them.
Yes,
But there
yep.
was a discussion in the Rural Caucus. I'm on the Rural Caucus, and I tried not to miss any of those meetings.
Yep.
And the local option tax came up. And one of the things now is whether towns, it should be shared statewide or only the towns that use it should be using that money, because apparently now there's a surplus. And I don't know all the detail, and I don't
Right.
know, I'm not very well schooled on it, but I keep thinking, because we keep hearing, you know what the elephant in the room is, Allison? You're going to love this.
Go ahead.
education.
Oh, yeah.
Education
It
keeps
eats up
coming.
everything.
It's got its hand in every budget
Everything.
line item we have.
I know.
So instead of saying we need another tax, we need a more, well, this municipality can get it has the opportunity for a local option tax, so let's take it.
Right.
Wait a minute, back up. If education is the elephant in the room, address the elephant in the room. Okay, in business, if this was a corporation, what would be looked at? The board would be looking at which divisions are making money and which ones aren't.
Right. And
which ones are
transportation
production.
needs some help.
Yeah, I would say, because
Right.
we're all going to have, we won't have to worry about soaring property values if none of the roads are any good to be able to get to our homes.
And one
We
of the
just
big
won't.
things on this local option tax is that, so the state takes about 25% of what is made. And so this is what the debate has been, is you're creating this slush fund for the state, and shouldn't all that money just go back to the towns?
Well, that
or
has
should
become-
it be evenly
right.
be divided for the towns to help?
Right. So, and what bothers me is now, because education has been nibbling away at all these budget line items.
Yes.
We have a tax that is been shown to be a good vehicle for bolstering transportation budgets, especially in rural Vermont. So it's so good now, people, because our transportation budget is so beat up and black and
Right,
blue,
right.
that this is a way to help send transportation dollars, road repair dollars, upgrades, fixes
Right,
to small rural towns.
right.
But I keep hearing education.
I know.
Fix
The blob.
education.
The blob.
Fix
The
education.
foundation formula, right?
Foundation formula. Okay, we did, and I'm getting responses about the op-ed I put on about tax
Oh, yeah, that was
relief
great.
and
Thank you.
Representative Galfetti's tax proposal. We have another representative in Caledonia County,
Marty Feltis.
Marty Feltis, who
Yep.
came up with a foundation formula tax, let's say, fix
Yep.
for the education side of it. So we lock in, okay, we're going to know what the money is. So when you go to vote on your school budget, the school is going to know the per pupil
Right.
dollar rate.
You'll
So
actually have a budget. to
you'll
work
actually
with.
have a
Can
budget.
you imagine?
There'll be no guesswork after you vote on your budget to find
Right.
out what the yield bill tells you.
Right.
Okay. And it would stop the big spending towns who don't want to be budget conscious
Mm-hmm.
from getting money from budget conscious districts.
Exactly. Because some
Basically,
work
okay.
really, really hard, and some
work
obviously are the
in my district. There are
spenders.
two that are work very hard, and I've
Right.
gotten numerous emails about we do a good job. It's the rest of the state. I
Right.
get that part. So we've got. My point is, we have Republican legislators who have been promoting options.
And trying really hard.
So when you hear that
Yeah.
the governor and Republicans don't have options, somebody's lying to you, or they were told a big fat load of BS.
Right.
Because that's not true.
Right.
Okay? It's not true. There have been numerous proposals to make government much more lean and more efficient by Republican
let the
legislators.
people have their money. I
Let them
know.
keep their money. Not let them
Exactly.
have it. Don't take it to
Don't
re-dole
take
it out.
Exactly.
Run
And
it
keep
through the
finding
bureaucracy.
Other ways
Yeah.
to take it, because that brings me back to the
Right.
press conference that we had last Tuesday for
Yes.
school choice, and that was
School choice,
awesome.
yes,
Very
okay.
successful. I think we had 100 or so people who really came
Yeah.
out in support, and so many other people who wanted to be there, but because of work,
EdWatchVermont.org,
et cetera.
okay.
EdWatchVT.org, exactly.
Right. But it's the whole idea is you pick your term, ladies and gentlemen, whether it's school choice, whether it's educational opportunity. I can't even remember.
Student-centered education.
Student-centered education.
Right.
Just in case you're afraid one of your neighbors is going to be triggered by the word choice.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
But the idea that mom and dad and student decide which school is best for them and
Mm-hmm.
why, and just go.
Right.
Send the money to that school. If we're looking for better outcomes when it comes to the total education and their scores, that's the way to do it.
Right.
And allow schools to compete for that money.
I know, and stop trying to lock in the monopoly, which we know is so dangerous.
Lock in the monopoly.
And
There
we
you
just
go.
cannot have that.
No.
And so Texas, right?
Oh, yeah, we got to
my-
cover the Texas thing.
Texas.
Okay, so now remind me, I just read it briefly, but basically, ladies and gentlemen, what do we have? 76 to 80,000, somewhere between 76 and 84,000 students
Yes, in
in this
Vermont.
state. Well,
Yeah.
guess what, ladies and gentlemen? More than 200,000 applied.
Yeah, it was
for the-
210,000.
What was it called
It
down
was
in?
the Education Savings Account, the
Education-
Texas Education Savings Account.
Okay, and more than 90,000 actually got it.
Yeah, I think it was around 90,000. They
So
had a
imagine
billion.
every student in our state availing themselves of that opportunity. And that's what I said in this press conference. Let's make Vermont a destination state. Texas has proven
I know.
that the entire population of Vermont schools would take it.
Yeah, and
We
parents
have the
want
proof.
This. Parents want
So let's do
this.
it.
Right.
Let's do it.
And listening to at the press conference some of the parents that spoke, it's just you could just see they want what is in the best interest of their child. They know
Yeah.
they need options. There
And
were
look,
many examples.
The one gentleman who's had a daughter who was bullied and was
Yes.
very introverted, and now
Yes.
she's in what
Thriving.
Was she was doing theater.
She's now doing theater
That's
and dance.
really introverted theater.
know.
Those two don't mix.
She's opened up at the right,
right,
place.
but when she gets into the right learning atmosphere, what happens?
Exactly. Kids thrive. They can thrive.
So
Right.
she found the niche that worked for her.
Yes.
How wonderful is that?
I know. And it was interesting because
I'll
after
bet-
our press conference, there's, more conversation happening. It
Yes,
seemed like then
yes.
the Act 73 proposal from Chair Conlon ended up getting scrapped. And
Oh,
now
that's a
they're-
huge dud. I'm
It
sorry.
is,
That's a
it
huge
is.
dud.
But if we can at least hold on to choice, town tuitioning, if we could
We have to.
even potentially expand it.
There's two things that need to happen. For me personally, okay? We have to maintain tuitioning the way we have it. Number one.
Yes.
Number two, we have to do it in a way that saves money. If when we're done and the proposal on the table doesn't save money and keep tuitioning,
What have we done?
no.
Right.
I check off the no box.
Right. Thank you.
We have to. We have to. It's not a fix if it doesn't do those two things.
Because who
It's
are we
not a
trying to
fix.
serve? We're trying to serve students
Yeah,
and
yes.
taxpayers,
Yeah,
right? That's what
exactly.
we need to do.
So, all right.
know.
Well, since we love to talk so much, you and I have burned through another segment very quickly. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to pay some bills. We will be right back. You're listening to Right Side Up. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're listening to Right Side Up. My name is Mike Taglavia. My guest host today is Allison Despathy. Before we get back into our discussion, I just want to remind all of our listeners, Right Side Up Radio at gmail.com, if you'd like to drop us a line. If for some reason you cannot catch us on WNTK Radio, go to WNTK.com, find the podcast button, click on it. Scroll down to Right Side Up and you'll be able to listen to any number of our shows. And by all means, if you like it, please share it with a friend. You can find us on Podbean. You can find us on 802 Scoop Facebook, 802 Scoop YouTube, and you can also find us on granitegrok.com. And I think I've covered all the venues so far. We got to get back into this. There's a ton of stuff, Allison. You and I never have enough time in the
Lots
short
to
period.
say,
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe one of these days we'll do a marathon show. But before we move on to other things, getting back into some of the environmental realm with 181 and Act 59, on Substack, I quote from this author a lot, and I read a lot of his articles and some of his guest posts. Tom Shepstone at Energy Security and Freedom with a guest post from Terry L. Headley at CFACT. When environmentalism slips into saying human existence is inherently destructive, it crosses the line into Malthusian madness. So
Yes.
we've got a lot of this environmental stuff going on in the state of Vermont, which is hurting rural Vermont in many aspects, not the least of which is economically. Okay.
Right.
So and I'll only do a little bit of this because we've got so many more things going on in the legislature, but I just want to give you a little bit of homework or give you a taste of what they're talking about. There was a time when environmental stewardship meant conservation grounded in gratitude rather than condemnation. It reflected a belief that a prosperous and confident society could protect its natural inheritance without repudiating the very progress that made such protection possible. The American conservation tradition grew from strength, not shame. In recent decades, however, much of what is presented as settled climate science, that's in quotes, has drifted from practical environmental management toward a sweeping moral narrative that indicts industrial civilization itself. The debate is no longer confined to atmospheric chemistry or predictive modeling. It has evolved into a broader philosophical claim that humanity's advancement is inherently suspect. Science, properly practiced, is iterative and self-correcting. It advances through questioning, testing, and refinement. Yet public climate discourse increasingly exhibits the traits of ideological orthodoxy. Skepticism about model assumptions or policy prescriptions is often met not with counter-argument, but with moral denunciation. The language of heresy, quote, denial, quote, anti-science, existential threat is deployed to narrow the field of acceptable opinion. That's when we get completely away from science and we get into alarmism,
And
right?
zealotry.
And zealotry.
And ideology, which is what we see often playing out in the Vermont State House.
Yeah.
Very, very sad.
Yeah. And what sounds good, but not what really works.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So just a couple more paragraphs here because this is really good. When a discipline presents itself as beyond debate and frames policy disagreement as ethical failure, it ceases to resemble open inquiry and begins to resemble doctrine. This transformation warrants scrutiny not because environmental concerns are illegitimate, but because intellectual humility is essential to credible science. The philosophical undercurrent of contemporary climate activism reveals a deeper unease with human progress. At its more radical edges, the movement portrays mankind not primarily as steward, but as contaminant. Human industry is described as invasive, consumption as pathological, and growth as inherently destructive.
We
Advocates-
we are the stewards, right?
We
We've got
are.
to be allowed
We are not
to
weeds on the
steward.
landscape.
We are not contaminants.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Right.
One more paragraph.
Yep.
One more paragraph. Advocates of, quote, degrowth openly argue that reduced economic output and lower living standards constitute moral improvement. Translation: your children and grandchildren living at a lower standard of living is good.
No, dangerous mentality.
Dangerous. Very dangerous.
Yes.
Discussions about limiting childbirth in the name of reducing carbon footprints have moved from fringe to mainstream academic settings. Such arguments rest upon a pessimistic anthropology that views human flourishing as environmentally incompatible. And the article goes on. It's pretty long. Like I said, this is on Substack.com, Energy, Security, and Freedom. You might want to check it out. It's really good. Tom Shepstone posts a lot of things about wind, solar, nuclear, petroleum product, you name it. But it's based in reason, in logic, in science. So you might want to check it out.
And there's three words that I would say that come to my mind on that one.
Yeah.
So propaganda.
Yeah.
Right? And agendas.
Well,
This is
that's
how
what the article
propaganda
was talking about. Yes.
gets used for these agendas. And we see
Yes.
this moving through when we look at a lot of our renewable energy policy and what
Yes.
happens. I just want to bring it back to Vermont.
Sure,
This is
sure.
what happens all the time is you've got activists, you've got zealots, and you've got social engineering going on. And then they use this sort of level of morality or made up morality
Yes.
to force people into this is what we need to do. This is our action. And it's always in crisis mode, right? It's always in crisis and existential threat, is how it's used. And that's where it's just trying to slow down and have a reality check and make sure that we are not creating laws based on social engineering and propaganda.
And the other thing is it ignores the advancements that we've made.
Yes.
It completely ignores the advancements that we made.
And there's been amazing technology that's happened. Obviously, some technology is questionable, and there's ethics around all of it. We could have,
Sure.
debates forever about
Right.
the ethics of technology. Look at AI and data centers right now, as a small example.
Yeah,
But we all know that I love my fridge. And I
Yeah.
use my phone, and I like my car.
And me too. Me
Right.
too.
I mean,
but
tech has its place.
I don't need a fridge that keeps inventory for me.
No, we
okay?
don't need a smart fridge
smart fridge
and a
Nah,
smart car.
I prefer my fridge to be as dumb as a rock.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
I don't.
And I don't
that.
need my consumption measured. You don't have to
No,
measure how
no.
much I'm using.
Because if they're measuring it, they're evaluating it. Somebody's
Right.
out there trying to figure out the way to decide if you have used too much.
And now you're a data commodity.
Yes.
Forget it.
Yeah. No, thank you. No,
no,
thank
that's
you.
a great article, Mike. Thank
So,
you.
All right. So we've got H933 is, I think it's called the yield bill.
Yes.
Came out of Ways and Means.
Yep.
And it does not provide for the ability of students and schools, independent schools or
Any
schools in
school
general,
in
any
general.
school in general,
Yep.
to be able to avail itself of the, I don't remember the exact,
The education tax
the
credit.
education tax credit. So
Yep.
what that is basically is it exists because of the what is it? One Big Beautiful
The
Bill.
One
Is that
Big
what
Beautiful Bill, exactly.
So at the national level,
Right.
this came out of that bill. So right now, currently, because we don't have it as an option in Vermont,
Yep.
taxpayers in Vermont can make a donation to a school outside of Vermont and get the tax credit. And guess who suffers?
Vermont's children.
Vermont students,
Exactly.
because none of the money will go to Vermont schools.
Right.
Ladies and gentlemen, does that make sense to you?
This is hideous.
I'll take off my earphones and listen for the echoing no across the
Right,
state, because
right.
I know everybody's going to
But I
say
don't
it doesn't
know why
make
the
sense.
Democrats are trying to do this. It was both in the House and the Senate, and it's going to just hurt Vermont.
Honestly,
Hurt.
I honestly believe it's a reaction. It's a knee-jerk reaction to the national administration.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
At the expense of Vermont students.
At the expense of Vermont students and Vermont schools.
And also, Mike, I just have
So-
to point out, it really also goes back to, because in the Senate version, what we were seeing is they wanted to limit any of the money that would come to Vermont if they were to open it up here to public schools or schools that receive town tuitioning. So you're leaving out the homeschoolers, you're leaving out any other student that might need, assistance some
No,
other way.
And I keep going back. I keep going back. Even the senators and representatives on the left will say, oh, you need choice for this, you need choice for that, except
Right.
when it comes to education.
Right.
No, education also. It should be across the board.
Yes.
So, ladies and gentlemen, look for an amendment to come because it's the right thing to do. We'll see what happens.
Yes. And
But
thank you.
There will be.
Yeah, it's
so I want to
great.
bring that up. And Allison, I think you had a couple more things that you wanted to talk
Well, I think
about.
it's just
can't
worth
remember.
mentioning 817, and there might be another amendment for that, but that moved out of House Health Care.
Yes, I think there's what we need is parental notification of some sort.
Yeah,
And I-
because this was essentially about a school being able to opt into mental health curriculum. And there was a lot of debate
Right.
and concern around parents should be notified, parents should be able to
Yeah.
consent to this, and parents should have access to any reports.
And I think that's what's going to be brought up.
Hopefully,
parental
yes.
notification or consent or both. I can't remember which, but there is going to be. I'm pretty sure there's going to be some discussion about that on the floor. Hopefully, that's what comes of it.
Yes,
Hopefully.
that would be
That-
a great outcome,
It
definitely.
would be a huge step, especially since wasn't there just out of California, there was just a Supreme Court decision that basically said that.
Yeah, that parents need to be notified anytime
Yeah.
you're doing anything with mental health or something psychologically or health-wise.
They're not secondary, they're primary.
Exactly
Yes,
right.
yes.
Yeah. So
So-
it would be the best move, and hopefully it will happen. We'll see.
And if we get that, then it won't be another costly lawsuit for this state because
Exactly.
that's what's coming down the pike if we don't correct this legislation.
Yes.
It's going to happen.
Yes.
And we're already broke in this state. We already have no money.
I know.
Okay? we as a legislature have bled Vermonters dry. Okay, we're in sugaring season, right? Tap trees, not Vermonters.
Exactly.
Well, hello. Let's stop.
Right.
Let's stop.
I know.
Let people
that's
keep their
what we're
money.
shooting for, and that's where I just really hope that people are going to wake up and talk to their representatives or anyone who's running and make sure that we do get some better balance and get some Republicans in there, because it's the only way we're going to turn around stuff like education,
Yeah.
Act 181, all of these pieces we're talking about.
Yeah, Allison, it's about balance. We have gotten to a point where in certain committees we have enough say, we have enough numbers where we can always question and pull out some of the worst in some of these bills. But they still come out, in my personal opinion, my description only, they still come out, a lot of them, as bad bills.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we're
And
never
they-
going to make that real shift and start serving Vermont and Vermonters
We need
unless
more
we get
numbers.
those. We need
Yes.
more Republicans in
Yeah.
there. Because you guys
So-
are really the ones representing. I wouldn't be sitting here talking with you right now if I didn't think that.
Well, yeah.
So thank you.
And we need a bunch more. So talk to your friends and neighbors. I know it's something that makes some people's eyes roll into the back of their heads, but talking about this amongst your friends and neighbors, educating them about what's going on under the Golden Dome is going to be what makes a difference. The rally that's happening today at noon
Yes.
on the steps,
We'll be there.
and hopefully that whole lawn is filled.
Yeah.
It's probably, I don't know, I think it's probably going to be a little bit of snow and a little bit of mud, but let's fill the whole thing.
Definitely.
Let's fill the whole thing.
Right. Because sometimes it's really the only way that certain legislators listen is when the voices are loud enough or when we're in crisis. And Act
yeah.
181 is both of those.
And be loud, but be polite.
yes.
And, just let them know, about what's going on and you don't like it.
right. And then
you
keep
don't like it.
engaged in it, because if
And
we
stay
get the
engaged.
date rolled back, if
Absolutely.
we get the dates extended, then the next step when we come back is going to
Is-
have to be repeal.
Absolutely
Right.
it is. Absolutely. So this is you need to be in it for the long game. You need to be playing the long game, because the majority has been playing the long game now for decades.
Right.
And now a lot of this stuff has come to a head where everybody is realizing, everybody, a farmer, anybody who owns land in Vermont, even if you're thinking about leaving, and here we go again, burning through segments. But
Right.
if you're thinking about leaving, your last biggest asset is probably your land.
Right.
And a lot of people are questioning, is Act 181 going to devalue my land?
Right.
So the equity you possibly, I don't want to see anybody leave, but some people now are looking at it and saying, well, the last thing that I have, and now that this is what the legislature is coming for. So
I know.
just
we have
keep that
to,
in mind. Yeah.
Definitely. And I was also just going to say to keep in mind that freedom is an ongoing struggle.
And it's not
always,
free.
And it's always under attack. And
Yes.
that's why it's the long game. And we got to stay engaged so we're part of this conversation.
Yes. And with that,
Exactly.
ladies and gentlemen, remember, stay safe, stay informed, listen to Right Side Up.